We only wanted to make one more move, and we wanted a place where we could spend the rest of our lives, because we promised our kids that a part of their inheritance was going to be not to have to take care of mom and dad as they aged.
My parents had moved to a continuing care facility a long time ago, and I had watched them move from independent living to assisted living, and I knew that this is what I wanted to have for myself, and I made the decision very young because I saw how wonderful it was for them.
My wife and I have 7 children. We had a big old house in Winnetka. You just say, well, you reach 80 years of age and you don't want to be a burden to your kids. And you want them, our kids live on the East Coast and the West Coast, and so this way they know we're taken care of. The other aspect for anybody that is concerned about moving from an existing home into a retirement home, you really still had independent living. My wife still cooks, so we are pretty much in our villa, and it's life goes on.
I wanted a life care community because when I did my research and visited other communities, if you were sick, they would place you in another facility. You would be moved. And that certainly didn't appeal to my sense of security. So that's exactly why I picked the Moorings.
Way back in the early 1990s, my husband and I were talking about what are we going to do next. We both were retired and looking ahead to what was the next step. And so we made a choice to travel around. We even put on a map and made a circle of places that we thought possibly would have continuing care and an environment that we would be comfortable with. So we'd check them off and we'd look around, and then when it came down to it, I had had my father and mother, my stepmother I should say, living in the Moorings for a short time, a little under 2 years. So I had a very personal connection with what it was like at the Moorings. And I saw how happy both of them were living there. It gave us a lot of information on how well we could live there. And I think that was our decision.
I think we chose it because it was so pretty. The Moorings itself looks like a resort, and we take walks around the campus, and it's just like a park. And different seasons of the year, in the fall it's gorgeous with the colored leaves, and spring we have daffodils and flowering trees and tulips and Christmas lights at Christmas, and it's just a gorgeous place to live.
My wife worked at the Moorings when Lutheran General Hospital developed it. We thought it was a really good place then. But then when we heard that the Presbyterian Homes had purchased the property and were building some new villas, there was no question about where we were going to go.
I do a lot of volunteer work in Arlington Heights. I'm a site director for my PAD site at the homeless shelter at my church, and I do adult literacy work through the high school district, teaching people from other countries to read and write English. And I wanted to stay in my community so I could do that. And I chose to live in the mid-rise because I was alone. My husband had died. I knew I wasn't ever going to cook, so I didn't want to have to walk out to go to meals. And I would be close for activities and have people around me rather than being isolated in a villa. So I made that choice, and please, more than I can say about it.
I lived in a home on the North Shore for 27 years, and all of a sudden I felt, hey, this home is not going to take care of me. And so that's when I started doing research, and when I found the Moorings, I too felt that the people there were so friendly and helpful, and there were so many activities that I didn't have around my house. We heard lectures, we visited places, we went on trips, we had the exercise room and swimming classes, so much to do, and I was kept busy.
I lived in my home 48 years in Arlington Heights, just 3 miles north of the Moorings. And that was one big plus, choosing the Moorings, because I could maintain my friendships that I have had for years, same church, same doctors, And I've only been in the moorings in the mid-rise now for not quite 5 months. And I'm so amazed at how friendly everyone is. They've made me feel welcome from the very first day. And I've made so many new friends. And I didn't know anyone when I first came in. And I've made so many nice friends now that I feel I'm so fortunate.
I just love it there because you're just living residential. Everything about it is just magnificent. And the people. They've just made my life just worthwhile again.
There were 2 ladies that were sitting, waiting to be picked up to go somewhere. And I asked them if they were residents there, and they said yes. And I said, "Are you happy here?" Both of them said, "Oh, we're happy here." And they didn't know anyone who was not happy. And that made me have the right feeling about the moorings from the very first day.
When we first started looking at this, you know, I have to admit this, we put money down twice at the moorings before we made a decision. Because the main reason was I was too young, okay? But I had serious health issues, and I felt I had to start doing things for my wife. And that's why we did it. Our biggest other concern in coming to the moorings was the formality of it. I don't have that kind of formal background, so I can't stand formality. So we brought that concern up to Mary Kay, and she says, "Oh, God, there's no problem at all. Come have dinner with us." And so I had dinner, and then everybody dressed casual-like, and we really had a nice time. The people were very nice. And so that disappeared from our resistance.
One of the things is that no matter what you have done in life, no matter what position you have held, everybody is treated exactly alike. There's just that warmth, that love that everyone has there.
I'm on the Spiritual Life Committee for Press Homes. We had a meeting the other day and went around there must have been 20 or so people there. And it seemed to me that I don't think there was any denomination where there were 2 or more. My point is, this is not a Presbyterian enclave as such. It really is non-sectarian.
I lived in a house after my husband died by myself. I had to hire people to do the lawn and the snow and clean my house, and it was a terrible decision for me when something had to be repaired. I find that by the time I paid taxes and insurance, and I had no mortgage left to pay, and paid for all these services, I'm living much more reasonably at the moorings than I did in my house.
It may seem expensive at first, but when you're there a while, when something happens, you don't have any problems. I mean, you get up to the garage door and it doesn't work. And if you're living in your own home, that means then you have to get the telephone book out, look it up, find somebody, and then you don't know if he's going to be good or bad, and it'll take him 3 weeks before he comes, and then on the day he's supposed to come, he doesn't show up. You don't know how good he is or anything. We get to our door and it doesn't work, no problem. We go in, pick up the telephone, and call the appropriate person and say, "It don't work." And with a smile, somebody is there the next day, they fix it, it's done, there's no worries, there's no concerns, and it's wonderful.
Our furnace went out in the middle of the night on a cold winter night last year. And so my husband called security or whoever he called, and within half an hour, the head of the department plus a workman were there, and they stayed there until our furnace was fixed. Now, how many times can you call somebody when you have a private house and have that kind of service?